in high school, well, actually, a little bit after I graduated, maybe about 2 or 3 months, one of my friends committed suicide, and it was shocking to all of us that knew him because he was like a class clown. He was always joking. He was always, real jovial, and he just seemed to be always in good spirits. So when we heard that news, it was just like, what in the world? And I don't think any of us saw it coming. And I think it's one of those things that, I mean, I don't know if they teach this in high school, but I think it's something that would be a good thing to kind of teach. Like, I know we do sex education in high school, and now they're starting to do things about bullying, but it would be, I think, pretty good to also talk about depression and talk about suicide prevention in high school. Do they do that, Sherry?
I am actually an instructor for a program called QPR.
Mm-hmm.
It is a gatekeeper training for suicide prevention. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if you all have heard of QPR, maybe you may have. But QPR, just like CPR, you save a life. QPR is the same concept. It teaches non-professionals how to intervene and how to recognize when someone is at risk for suicide and how to intervene. It's 3 simple steps. The Q stands for question. You ask that person the question. Basically, are you thinking about harming yourself? Are you thinking about committing suicide? Ask it directly, or you can ask it indirectly, but you need to ask the question. P, QPR, P is for persuade. So after you ask them the question, you get that answer. P is for persuade. You want to persuade that person to get help. And then R is for refer. You want to refer them to the professionals who can help them. So that's an intervention piece that we've been teaching for quite some time, and trying to do it more in the schools as we see more young people commit suicide. I worked at Kentucky State University for almost 10 years, and of course it's HBCU, and people would think, oh, that doesn't happen on our campus. Probably 2 to 3 times per semester, I was dealing with suicidal students. The majority of it was either they would suffer from depression or there were relationship issues, females as well as males. If they had broken up with their significant other, it was like that was the end of the world, and they would threaten suicide and attempt suicide. So it's very real. It's very real in our community. There was some sisters at my church whose grandfather committed suicide a few years ago. He went out to his shed in the backyard right here in Lexington, Kentucky, and shot himself in the head.
Mm.
My cousin's, her daughter's brother committed suicide. 7 years old, hung himself.
How old?
This year. 7.
7?
7. And these are all African Americans.
And I guess that's what I was speaking to when I talked, when I mentioned the whole thing as far as high school, because I know for me, how it was in high school for me is totally different than how it is in high school nowadays. With everything going on in the world, there's just a lot of pressure and a lot of stress that teens have nowadays that I can honestly say I didn't have in high school. So I definitely think it's something worth discussing. So anyway,
it seems like the younger these kids get, it seems in my mind, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like they are thinking that it's just going to solve the moment, and they aren't thinking of the long term of how it affects the fact that they're no longer on Earth, and how it affects their families and their loved ones and those who are connected to them. So I think that people are kind of oblivious. I think younger people and older people alike are oblivious to the fact that when it's over, it really is over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Mm-hmm. I want to say really quick.
One of my former students.
Go ahead. Dealing with the younger kids, I would say there's a lot more going on as far as what we were going through, even in elementary school. When we went to school, it was totally different. We didn't deal with bullying, and we didn't have cyber bullying and all this other stuff. And like I said, kids aren't as vocal as they should be, or either they're being threatened not to talk, whether they're being abused sexually, mentally, or emotionally, or even if it's just bullying, which is mental and emotional abuse, and sometimes physical. It's their way out. I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want to go through this. I don't want to face this again. If I tell on them, it's going to make it worse. So it's like I'll just end my life, and then nobody has to deal with it.
Okay, how do we get the message across to kids and teenagers, adults? How do we teach people that in life you're going to have hardships, and you just have to learn how to deal with things, and that it's not going to be bad all the time? How do we get that message across?
I think it depends on your environment. For me, when I went through my suicide, I'll be transparent again. When I went through my suicide attempts, I had just gone through a divorce. I wasn't working at the time, and I've always kept a job. I was living with my parents, so I felt like a burden. I was dating a guy that, now that I look back, was emotionally abusive. And it was just overwhelming. And I remember driving out to the Narrows Bridge, which is a really big bridge here, kind of like the San Francisco Bridge. And I drove underneath where it was a no, you're not supposed to be there, it's a restricted area. And as I thought about it, just drive your car, and it's bad, and I'm going to go spiritual just a little bit, but it was like I could hear Satan talking to me, just drive your car right on over. There's no gates, there's no nothing, just take your car and press the gas. And literally, I was on my way to doing it. So I would back up the more I thought about it, and I would think about my son, and then I would just be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I just want this to be over. And finally, somebody probably saw me and called the police. And just like Sherry said, he went through the QPR. You're not thinking about driving your car off this bridge or jumping off this bridge, are you? So he talked me down emotionally. Then he persuaded me to follow him, and then referred me on to somebody else. So I followed him to my friend's house, and then once I got to my friend's house, he talked to my friend, and we went from there. But I forgot the question at this point. It's just real. I mean, you can't really persuade somebody sometimes that what they're going through is not the end of the world. It's really a matter of perception. And thank God I got a praying mama, because she knew something was going on. I had turned my cell phone off. I took the battery out because I was like, I don't want them to be able to look for me and pick up a signal or nothing. So she started making phone calls, and that's how people knew something was going on. Like, this ain't right. She don't come home. She's left her son here, and she didn't tell nobody where she was going. And that's unusual for me. So it's just a matter of people paying attention. And then the QPR, like she said, I don't think you can really persuade people. I guess you can persuade people to kind of back off, but it's hard. If their mind is made up one way or another, they may not do it that way that day, but they might do it later on if it's a continual thought process that they go through.
Yeah, if they don't have any intervention.
Mm-hmm.
So, Monica, you said attempts, plural.
Mm-hmm.
So how many attempts were there?
For me, 2.
Now, the incident with the bridge, was that the first one or the second one?
That was the second one.
Wow.
Wow.
The first one, I took this one I was mad. I was so mad I didn't die at that time. Looking back, oh my God. Oh, thank you, Jesus. But I took a handful of doggone ibuprofen. I was like, just something to ease this pain that I'm dealing with. And It was probably about 15 of them by the time I got done. Now, mind you, I don't take pills. I hate swallowing Tylenol. I don't, anything that I've got to swallow, I don't want to do it. But for some reason that day, I just had all the guts in the world, and I just kept popping, and all I ended up with was a major stomach ache.
Did you have to get your stomach pumped?
No, I didn't. I didn't. And I don't know how that didn't happen, but I just ended up with this major stomach ache for like a couple of days, and that was it.
Wow. So did someone ask you, you know, what, did you pass out or anything like that?
Nope. No.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're still here.
I'm glad I'm here too.
Me too.
Amen.
You're able to help other people.
Don't do it. If you're thinking about it and you're out there, there is more on the other side of what you're going through. I look at my life now, and I'm happy to be here. Not only do I have a vibrant 10-year-old son that I need to be the mother for, but just life has gotten so much better on the other side of those situations. You know, so many open doors and opportunities, and